Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the 412 Double Play podcast. The Pirates dropped 10 straight games against NL West teams and then came home to take a series from AL West squad. Postseason hopes almost certainly dashed, but still a month and a half of baseball to play. So we play on. I'm your host, Michael Castrogano, taking a break from my family vacation. Late at night, everyone's asleep. Discussed this past week in Bucks baseball solo session because you just never know how a 4-year-old's going to go to bed. So probably a shorter episode this week, but let's go ahead and get into it. Transactions this past week. Marco Gonzalez placed on the 60-day IL for a reported left forearm strain last week. He was supposed to start against the Padres. They decided to pull him because of this injury. The left forearm strain has been a recurring problem for him. He missed time earlier this season because of that same reason. That's ending his season, likely his tenure with the Pirates. They were a long shot to pick up his option for next season. I think it's like 12 or 15 million, something like that. They're not going to pay that for what they would expect from him. The Bucks did select Ryder Ryan's contract to replace him on the roster, bringing him back to the team. He previously was called up 6 previous times, and then eventually was DFA'd. I don't know if that restarts the minor league option clock, or if they have to DFA him if they option him again. Not sure. We also saw Andrew McCutchen landed on the IL with left knee inflammation following Friday's game. During Friday's game, he was pulled, really, with Alika Williams recalled to take his roster spot. Don't know the severity. It's just 10-day IL as of now. It is possible that that's the end of Kutch's season as well. Josh Walker, he was previously DFA'd to clear a 40-man spot for Domingo Germán. He was released and then re-signed on a minor league deal. Also, Bull Sulcer. Fans may remember him from, I think, 2023 or 22. He was a Pirates pitcher, and he kind of bounced around after leaving Pittsburgh. Was signed to a minor league contract as well. Billy McKinney reports earlier today. Noah Hiles of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reports that he will be joining the team in Texas. No word yet on the corresponding move, but he has been scorching in Indy this year, so it is well-deserved. I will mention him in the Indians recap. So losing Marco Gonzalez is unfortunate. It seems like Jared Jones is pretty close to being able to come back. Hopefully he'll be rejoining the team at some point this week. Who knows exactly when. But, I mean, Kutch, he's been really heating up lately, and he's kind of had those spurts. Had an 11-game hitting streak, and even kind of playing part-time DH, seeing Joey Bart in there sometimes, Reynolds in there sometimes. I think that was more a role that was suitable for what you would expect from him, given his age and a little bit decline in performance. Giving him some more days, spacing out the playing time was kind of working out better for him. But Alika Williams is not the improvement there. I don't know what that's about, why that was the call-up instead of one of the other talented hitters down in Indianapolis, including Henry Davis, who at any point they can call him back. Looking back at this week, the week started in San Diego. Marco Gonzalez hitting the IL earlier in the day, ahead of the Monday, whichever start. First game of this week. Lining up the Jake Woodford to make an unexpected start. And Wood was good. 6+ innings, allowing just 1 run off 3 hits, the last of which came from the lone batter he faced in the 7th inning. It was a Jerkson Profar double to right. He would come around to score after Woodford departed the game. Padres added on another one in the 8th. Pirates left 10 men on base, only played 1 as they dropped the game 2-1. Game 2, Luis Ortiz on the bump. He bounced back. He's had a couple rough starts lately, starting to see the cracks in the foundation, because this is a full season of him being a starter. You think about 2022, he soared through the minor leagues. He started that year in Bradenton, technically. And so this is a big turning point for him. And he's mostly looked good this year. He's had a couple rough starts. This last start, he pitched 5 innings, 3 hit, 2-run ball, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. His mound opponent, Michael King, he bounced back even better from his last start against the Bucks last week, twirling 6 shutout innings, striking out 10. Jeez, man. The Pirates stranded a ton of runners this series. Mentioned the 10 the previous game, stranded another 8 in this game as they lost 3-0. And then final game facing former Bucco and Martin Perez. He's just locked into a new gear since the trade to San Diego, leaning heavily on that changeup. It's become his primary pitch. I think he's completely ditched the sinker, if not close to it. 5.1 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, season high in strikeouts for the veteran lefty. Mitch Keller went for the Bucks' second straight terrible start. 8 runs off 8 hits through 5 innings of work. Ever since he had that rain-shortened start, he's had 2 really bad starts. Allowed 7 runs in his previous outing. You got to hope that he has a turning point here somewhere. The team went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They left another 8 men on base as they dropped the final game 8-2. And their losing streak at that point, 10 games, heading home for a series against the Mariners. Paul Skeens on the bump. He had some control issues. They've been cropping up the past couple games. This was the worst one so far for the Rookie of the Year frontrunner. Career worst, 4 walks allowed. He still managed to run 6 innings of 2-run ball, 2 hits, 6 strikeouts. Mariners are not a great offensive team. So while that is great, it's a little bit worrisome that he's having this kind of control problems. Yasmani Grandal, of all people, homered and kind of led the offense. He had a critical single at one point. Back end of Kyle Nicholas, Aroldis Chapman, they each had 1, 2, 3 innings before David Bednar took the 9th. Did allow a leadoff home run and then a single, and then struck out the next 3 batters to secure the 5-3 win, breaking that 10-game losing streak. Game 2, Bucks bats really unloaded in the Saturday game against longtime divisional foe Luis Castillo. Bailey Falter was on the mound. He did all right. 5.2 innings, I believe he went. But Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, home run among his 3 hits on the day. Rowdy Tellez and Jared Triolo, they each homered on the day. Offense really just took off. Pirates took a 7-2 victory. And then final game, sweep on the line, but Mariners starter George Kirby, he shut down the Bucks. His lone blemish being a 2-run homer by Joey Bart in the 6th. Jake Woodford went for the Pirates. He got some bad defense behind him. Hung a couple pitches. Like 2 home run ball. Well, one of the home run balls was right down the middle. The double to, I think, Victor Robles was pretty center cut too. There was a couple, but like there were some infield singles earlier in the game. Jared Triolo really should have been a little bit more aggressive on and made outs, and the one ended up scoring. The other one kind of just extended the inning. It's just stuff that you can't have happening. But Woodford, he didn't do himself favors either. 4 innings, 9 hits, 7 runs, 5 of them earned due to a couple errors, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts as the Pirates lost the final game 10-3. And that game, obviously, they got blown up quite a bit. But overall, it's and this is the same thing with the final game of the Padres series, the 8-2 loss. It's a lot of close games that they're losing. And that's kind of been a recurring thing. I was looking at it earlier today. Their record it's a lot easier when I'm have someone else to be able to talk during this. 1-run games, they are 19-24, and in extra innings, they're 7-8. You got it with the kind of bullpen that we expected them to have, with the late inning success we expected them to bring to the table. You've got to tighten that up. You switch the margins on that. We're not talking about, maybe they make 500 this season. We say, maybe they make the wild card. Maybe they win the division. You say 1-run games goes from 19-24 to 24-19. All of a sudden, you're 63-62. 63-60. Yeah. And you're in a different position. But yeah, didn't happen. They're losing these close games that hopefully they can start turning around. Um, Skeens, I I'm not. He's still got great stuff. You're starting to see the velocity decrease. I pointed this out a couple weeks ago. Um, that he's becoming less effective. He's becoming less aggressive in the zone. He's not getting the chases as much. It's He's still very good. I'm not taking anything away from him. Or Livy Dunn cosplaying as him this past weekend for some reason. I don't know what I just saw the picture of it because social media. Um, I worry that they might shut him down at some point just because they're going to see that too. And they don't want to risk him getting injured. Bednar actually got the save in the game on Saturday. Came in with like bases loaded, even though it was a 7-2 win. Technically became a save situation, and he managed to like have a clean outing. First time in his previous 6 games he allowed a run to score, so that was big. Obviously, the Friday night having a good outing, and not a good outing, but after the run scored, being able to come back and strike out the next 3 batters. Like, you really need that. We're starting to see Chapman's been excellent. He's not going to be here in 2025. Right now, you're not. You got to be looking for 25. Kyle Nicholas is looking like the real deal. Holderman, if it was an injury and that's something that's fixable, then hopefully he can be back and be better next year in a maybe lower leverage situation. But they got a lot of holes to fill, and external options are limited. So let's look at some of those internal ones. Down on the farm, Indianapolis hosting the St. Paul Saints. Indy crushed it. They swept the Saints this week, winning all 6 games. Bubba Chandler and Thomas Harrington continue to produce since their recent promotions to AAA ball. Chandler posting 6 shutout frames, 5 hits, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, while Harrington went 7 scoreless, 2 hits, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Billy McKinney, mentioned earlier, he's going to be joining the team in Texas. He posted a 1.456 OPS over 13 at-bats this week, while Henry Davis has continued to tear the cover off the ball in the minors, leading the team with a 474 batting average this week and more walks than strikeouts with a 4-3 margin there. Indy surges to a 57-59 record. They are inching ever closer to a second half division run. Altoona hosting the Bowie Bay Sox. The other teams outside of Indy didn't do quite so well. Altoona dropped 4 of 6 games this week. Starting pitching in the lower levels, they're starting to see their starts are limited. None of this week's pitchers made it through 4 innings, though. Kervin Pichardo went 6 for 21 on the week. He was leading the offense. Team was kind of inconsistent across the board. Curve fall to 47 and 67 this season. Greensboro at the Bowling Green Hot Rods Grasshoppers. They only won 1 of 5 games this week. 6th match was postponed due to, I think I saw it was wet grounds. I don't know what that means. I guess the grounds were just wet. Hudson Head slashed 357, 438, 714 in 4 games this week. And that was the only real bright note on that team, as the Hoppers slumped to a 63-49 record. And finally, Bradenton hosting the Dunedin Blue Jays. Marauders lost 4 of 6 this week to the Baby Jays. Michael Kennedy had a solid start, 5 shutout frames, 2 hits, 2 walks, a hit batter, and 4 strikeouts, while Will Taylor, recent draft pick, hit a grand slam in his for his first professional home run. The Marauders are now 48-66 on the year. I mentioned Billy McKinney will reportedly, I'm not breaking news here. You look at the actual journalists for that stuff, reportedly will be debuting with the Pirates. He's played for a number of different organizations. He's in the A's organizations, I think the Cubs, Yankees, Blue Jays, back to Yankees. Now he's with us. Versatile. I think he can play center field. I think he's mostly corner outfield. Indianapolis posted a clip last week, I want to say, of McKinney making a really great throw from right field. A certain podcaster friend of mine mistakenly thought that was Billy Cook. I also kind of thought it was Billy Cook because I forgot about Billy McKinney altogether. But it's having a pretty great season. Like, it's just not something to ignore. And now that we're getting later on in the year, some of those guys are going to get a shot, which I think Billy Cook should get a shot. I think that they've got to take a close look at some of the other guys who are going to be Rule 5 eligible this upcoming offseason. But you kind of need a spark plug. One of the things I did recently notice, and I think someone pointed it out, we went from having one of the hardest remaining schedules by like opponent winning percentage to one of the easier ones, because we have, I think, the 9th easiest, air quotes, easiest schedule by winning percentage. Only a handful of teams ahead of us. Coming into last week, I think we had like the 6th hardest. So you kind of put a lot of weight in facing the Padres, and before that, Dodgers and Diamondbacks, and they're likely not going to make playoffs. I'm just happy that they're starting to play a little bit better baseball. But the big thing that it kind of got exposed this past week is that they have had these close games where they're leaving guys on base. And as you notice, lobbying for a win is the name of this episode. So let's make it the special, because what is with this team and leaving ducks on the pond? Ton of batters stranded in these recent series, including the Dodgers, including the Diamondbacks, both Padres series, really. Plenty of opportunities to punch through tying or even go-ahead runs. The offense just can't seem to get the big hit when they need it. And then I did research, and surprisingly, they've actually been better offensively with runners on base than with the bases clean. On the season, bases empty, the Pirates are slashing 232, 296, 367 with 65 home runs in 2,396 at-bats. With runners in scoring position, that's 227, 308, 364 in 981 at-bats. And men on base in general, it's 238, 308, 380 line with 58 home runs in 1782 at-bats. Basically, it's statistically about even, a little bit better overall when they've got men on base or even in scoring position. And recently, we're actually starting to see the offense show up. They're seeing sparks of life. I think they came into play today, Sunday the 18th, ranked 13th in August among offenses for OPS. And you got to feel like there may be one or two more pieces solidifying that lineup, kind of backing up guys so you don't have to pitch around O'Neal Cruz as much. You don't have to like pinch hit Rowdy because with someone like Connor Joe, who we're starting to see these slumps. You don't have to say, okay, Michael A. Taylor, hopefully he can come through here, and maybe they go and bunt him. One or two more pieces this offseason to really back up those comments that we heard this past weekend by Isaiah Kiner-Falefa that this team could be a 100-win squad next season. He was comparing us to the Baltimore Orioles and how they've rebuilt, and that's kind of been the goal, I think, for a lot of fans, myself included. We talk about how the Rays have built, but really the Orioles were a lot more similar, having 2 number 1 draft picks in a short period of time, having a ton of prospects very heavily in one area. For them, it was position players. For us, pitchers. And being able to supplement that with trades and moving that talent in order to acquire other pieces, like they did with Corbin Burns. I think that that's something, and 100 wins is crazy high. Maybe it's doable, but if that's your goal and you say, okay, we want to go for 100 wins next year, and you just fall short, you're in pretty great territory. And they just need to put it together for a full 162. Not have the fall off early like they did last year after their 20-8 start. Not have the big implosion late in the year like they did with their 10-game losing streak earlier this month. And whether that comes with Shelton at the helm or not, I can't say. I don't know. I've had a lot of people commenting, responding to my starter spotlight pieces, complaining and lambasting and saying that Shelton and Charrington both need to get fired. They're not both going to get canned. This isn't 2019 where you've had the same guys there for, what was that, 9 years at that point? Maybe Shelton's not the right guy, and maybe they'll make that decision soon. I have no idea when his contract runs out. I've been researching that as much as I can. They've never released that information. It's possible he's still here in 2025. It's possible he's not, but this team can and hopefully will be making that push next year. It's just tough. And I'm not like the game today. George Kirby, incredible pitcher. He was one of my 2 preseason picks for AL Cy Young, along with Tariq Skubal. And so I'm not mad that he carved us up. I'm mad that we had to face him because I thought originally we were facing someone else. But that's just how these previews can change. And speaking of previews, we got the Rangers and Reds this week. We're playing a game every day. 3 at Rangers, and then back home for a weird 4-game set against the Reds. For the Rangers series, I don't know who the first starter is for the Rangers themselves, but we've got Luis Ortiz scheduled for the Monday game, Mitch Keller going against Southpaw Cody Bradford in Game 2, and then Paul Skeens reportedly facing off against another Southpaw in Andrew Heaney. Rangers have been performing better as of late, but it does seem like their chances at postseason are a little bit far off. They're 57 and 68 right now. The offense has been pretty good. The pitching has not been as good. Let me see what the runs scored. 531 runs scored is one of the better ones in baseball. Oh, actually, no, their offense hasn't been that great either. Middle of the pack, but 566 runs allowed is definitely towards the bottom. Yeah. So they're worse than us in runs scored. They're worse than us in runs allowed, a little bit better than us in runs scored. Surprising. Dang, that's surprising. A little bit better at home. They're 32 and 30. And we got a couple lefties that we're going to have to face. McKinney, I believe, is left-handed hitter, so that's unfortunate. This is not great timing to have called him up. Again, would have preferred someone like Henry Davis, but Bradford and Heaney are not great. And it's not to they're major league pitchers. They're 110% better at baseball than I've ever been, even in MLB The Show games. But they can stand a chance in this series. There's obviously some players that they're going to have to watch for with the Rangers, and I haven't been keeping up their injuries. Definitely check out the series preview. Should drop tomorrow, maybe early afternoon, on the Ranger series on SteelCity.com. We'll be able to dive a little bit more in depth with regards to what the Rangers bring to the table. But, it's a winnable series. Each series is technically winnable. And I'm not even just saying that, being on the other side of those Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Padres series. We can beat these teams. The Red series looks like they've got Nick Lodolo going in Game 1 against Bailey Falter. So another Southpaw, Andrew Abbott, going against TBD. Right now it's Jake Woodford's spot. I wouldn't be surprised if Jared Jones is back for that one. Keep an eye out for that, especially being at home. 4 Southpaws in a row. That's just weird. And then TBD for the Saturday game against Ortiz and TBD for the Sunday game against Keller. It's kind of far out. It's hard to say. The Reds have kind of been a little iffy lately. They've lost 3 straight. Their playoff chances are pretty close to where we're at. They're higher than us in the division, but they're not that much better. They're 60 and 64. They're an interesting team. They've definitely got some young talent. It seems like Hunter Green might be out for potentially the season, if it's anything serious, because I know he got injured, so likely not going to see him. they get a lot of pitching injuries, and they've got a lot of depth. They've got a really good farm system, something to keep an eye on. But the offense hasn't been really showing up as much as I would have thought, would have expected with them. Let me just quickly take a look at their post All-Star stats. All right, so it's pretty much Ellie. Who's that? Tyler Stevenson? Is that his name? Yeah. Tyler Stevenson's been okay. Friedel's okay. I mean, they're just all right. Like, you avoid Ellie, and that's kind of what you need to do. Like, he's gonna get some NL MVP votes just because he's having a pretty crazy season. So hopefully we go in and just like play some hard-nosed baseball. It's fun getting these rivalries and getting to face them, especially late in the season, even with nothing on the line except pride. And you know what? That's pretty great. Well, that'll wrap it up for this week's episode of 412 Double Play. Like I said, a little bit shorter. I've got to get to bed. I've got a long week of playing with the squirt. So follow me on the socials at 412 Double Play. Check out steelcity.com for news and updates about the Pirates from myself and fellow Pirates contributors. The link is always in the description. Of course, I'll have these starter spotlights posting at noon on game days. So definitely check those out. I'll share that all over the place. Follow the show on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else podcasts are found. Excuse me. Thank you again for joining me this week. And let's go Bucks. Send us off, Sawyer.
Lady Jolly Roger, dude.
Thank you.